Every year I hidden my pain on my birthday, but this time, an amazing villa revealed my true self. Emily trembled as she stood outside the Villa Rosewood, its opulence stark against her simple life in Maplewood. Each brick and lush garden whispered of dreams she hardly dared to nurture. She could almost hear the echo of a younger version of herself, heart heavy with unfulfilled wishes, as she pieced together smiles for customers, her own sorrows carefully tucked away. Just one more birthday, and she would pretend once again that everything was fine. Inside, the room shimmered with glitter and laughter, filled with investments from lives that felt worlds away. Yet all Emily saw was the chipped paint of her trailer and the weight of her mother's disappointment. The scent of spring blossoms hung thick in the air, and as she greeted old men in plaid shirts and women with perfectly coiffed hair, she wore her smile like armor, holding back the flood of memories that threatened her composure. She thought of her daughter, Lily, only 8 years old, laughing and playing among new friends and the overwhelming longing to give her a different life. While many townsfolk saw Emily as just the waitress from the diner, the underlying belief that every meal served might bring a little hope drove her forward. It was the possibility of lifting others that ignited a spark inside her, that fire needed air now more than ever. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Emily glanced around, her heart sank. The familiar judgmental eyes were watching her, those who looked past her smile and right through to her struggles. She could almost hear their whispers. How did she end up here? Shouldn't she be thankful? She clenched her fists, breathing deep as the shame began to wash over her like a tide rising under the weight of the past. Suddenly, her world turned upside down when Lily approached, hugging an old box with tattered edges. "Mommy!" the girl exclaimed, her eyes wide with discovery. "Look what I found." Opening it revealed a tarnished locket, the heirloom, buried with the hurt of the past. Memories flooded Emily, the dreams described within family stories, now a burden entwined with her frayed identity. Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes, the whispers growing louder. In that moment, she realized that she couldn't run forever. Her daughter looked expectant, hope shining like a beacon, as if to say, "You can do this, Mom." With trembling hands, Emily took a step forward. Perhaps now was the time to share her truth, to unearth the hidden pieces of herself, and silence those judgmental murmurs. But the uncertainty gripped her heart. Would they still see her as just the waitress after she spoke? Or could they finally see her as she chose to be, a beacon of hope and resilience? The night loomed ahead as an emotional tempest, and Emily knew she stood on the precipice of reclaiming her voice. Could this birthday finally mark a turning point? Emily's heart raced as she stood at the threshold of revelation. The locket in her hand felt heavy, like the weight of all the secrets she had carried for far too long. Lily looked up at her, eyes sparkling with belief, unaware of how profoundly this moment hung in the balance. "Mommy, what's that?" Lily asked, curiosity refreshing in the sea of anxiety swirling around Emily. The vibrant chatter of the party faded into the background as she brushed her thumb over the twisted metal, remembering her grandmother's stories of endurance and hope. Taking a deep breath, Emily gathered her thoughts, the whispers of doubt battling against her desire to speak. She had spent so much time hiding behind a mask, but tonight felt different. The air buzzed with possibility, and she clutched the locket tighter, as if summoning the courage of those who had come before her. "Lily," she said softly, kneeling to meet her daughter's curious gaze. "This belonged to my grandmother. She was a strong woman, just like you." The words hung in the air, laced with a mixture of pride and shame. Every syllable held the potential to change everything. And then it happened. With a flicker of bravado, Emily turned to the crowd, their laughter and chatter swirling around her like a thick fog. Voices rose and fell, the room alive with chatter, but to Emily, the cacophony sounded distant, almost like a heartbeat echoing in her chest. Clearing her throat, she stepped toward the center of the room, drawing the crowd's attention. Conversations quieted, and she felt the weight of 100 curious gazes boring into her, yet her voice surged through the silence. I want to share something with you all. The shift in energy was palpable. She felt her palms clammy, the locket's coolness grounded her as she steadied her resolve. For years, I've hidden my pain behind a smile. It's my birthday, but I have never truly celebrated, not in the way I want to. The room watched, rapt and silent. Emily's heart raced, fueled by something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. I grew up feeling lost, like I wasn't good enough. I wore my heart on my sleeve but always felt it was misplaced. Around her, tight expressions softened, eyes widened in understanding. Could they relate? Would they see her more than just the waitress? Lily, brave and bright, stepped in closer, holding on to her mother's arm, bolstering her strength with pure love. Mom, you're amazing. She piped up, innocent enthusiasm radiating like a beam of light piercing through Emily's doubts. Emily's breath hitched, her heart swelling with gratitude. The judgment she feared felt like a distant memory. She'd made it this far, and in her chest bloomed the fierce hope of reclaiming her truth. And this locket reminds me to embrace who I am, Emily continued, her voice stronger now. Not just for me, but for Lily, for all of us who feel overlooked, for all of us who need a little light in the dark. I want to show her that it's never too late to chase our dreams. Soft gasps rippled through the crowd. An elderly woman near the front nodded, her eyes glistening with a tear. Yes, dear, we understand, she murmured, her kindness wrapping around Emily like a warm embrace. For the first time that night, a flicker of freedom ignited within her, a thaw in the long-frozen corners of her heart. But as she let the words flow, a nagging thought nestled in the back of her mind. What would the next step be? How could she turn this moment into something more than just a fleeting revelation? As she gazed out into the crowd, she sensed this was just the beginning, a spark of transformation on the horizon. But could she sustain it? Just then, the door creaked open, and an unexpected figure stepped inside, shaking off the chill of the night. Someone from her past, someone who could alter everything. What would happen now? Time seemed to slow as Emily's eyes locked onto the figure at the door. She could hardly believe it. James. His presence pulled her back down memory lane, a place she thought she'd resolved to leave behind. His familiar silhouette stirred something deep within her, a mix of nostalgia and fear. What was he doing here? Did he know? The host of the party, oblivious to the charged air, greeted him with a smile. Emily's heart quickened, and her hands tightened around the locket, the small piece of jewelry grounding her amidst the whirlwind of emotions. Hey everyone. Sorry I'm late. James called, his voice cutting through the quiet. The joyful chatter resumed as people welcomed him back, but Emily stood frozen, her thoughts racing. James hadn't changed much, his smile still capable of lighting up a room. But it was the way his gaze sought hers, piercing through the noise, that sent a shiver down her spine. Did he remember the way things were? The laughter they shared, the dreams once whispered under stars? Mommy? Who's he? Lily's voice broke through her reverie. Emily knelt down, just as she had a moment ago, wrestling with the whirls of emotion. That's James, she said cautiously. Someone who used to mean a lot to me. Lily frowned, her innocent brows knitted together. Used to? Yes, Emily whispered, feeling the sting of a truth she never wanted to voice in front of her daughter. She'd never revealed the full story, only fragments about heartbreak and choices made that led them apart. Around her, people began to dance, laughter enveloping the space where doubt loomed. James approached Emily, his expression a mix of uncertainty and recognition. Emily, it's been a while, he said softly, almost hesitantly stepping into the familiar warmth of their shared past. Yeah, she managed, her voice smaller than she intended. A while. I heard what you just shared, he continued, glancing toward Lily. You were so brave tonight. His praise was genuine, a soothing balm to her wounds. I always knew you had this strength in you. The words wrapped around her, squeezing her heart. For a moment, they were back in high school, comfortably sharing ice cream and secrets. Yet, reality crashed in as the warmth dissipated. He was here, not just a fragment of her memory, and she didn't know how to act. Brave? She echoed, mindful of the audience that had scattered around them, some still watching with curious eyes. That's not exactly how I felt. Sometimes we just need to leap, he said, his gaze earnest. You took a leap tonight. Emily's breath caught in her throat. Could she leap again? She had fought so hard to guard her heart, stitching it together with remnants of disappointment and grief. But James' presence tugged at the loose threads. What are you doing here? The question spilled out, fueled by a mixture of anger and longing. After all this time? James opened his mouth, but the shuffle of partygoers drowned out his response. Faces drifted by, laughter echoed, and somewhere in that sea of humanity, Emily felt herself wavering. She wanted to hold on to the new strength she had discovered but felt that old, familiar tide pulling her back. Lily, sensing the shift, tugged at her mother's sleeve. Mommy, don't forget about the cake. The reminder jolted Emily out of her tangled thoughts. Right, she had committed to celebrating. Let us go, sweetheart, Emily said, forcing a smile as she motioned toward the kitchen. But deep inside, a fire ignited. This wasn't just about cake. It was about facing her past, whatever shape that might take in the future. As they walked toward the kitchen, her heart raced with anticipation. Would this moment with James lead to another revelation? Or would it only serve to stretch the complex web of her story even further? The answer lingered in the air, unspoken and charged with possibility. And again, she felt that pull, the urge to leap into the uncertainty ahead, daring enough to hope, but afraid of the depths below. What future awaited her beyond the cake and laughter? Would she truly embrace the chance to rediscover herself? When the lights flickered, catching her eye, she could almost believe that tonight, more than just her birthday, would mark the dawn of a new chapter. But before she could step forward, a familiar voice called her name, sending a tingling rush down her back. Emily. Could it be? Emily turned, her heart pounding again. The voice had brought with it a flood of memories she hadn't thought would resurface tonight. As she caught a glimpse of the familiar figure, emotions crashed over her like a tidal wave. There stood Claire, her best friend from childhood, the one who knew all her secrets, all her heartbreaks. Claire had been a constant reminder of what once felt whole. Time had transformed them both from wide-eyed dreamers into women carrying histories that sometimes felt too heavy to bear. Claire! Emily exclaimed, her voice laced with surprise. She moved forward, eager yet cautious, unsure if this encounter would spark joy or bring back buried pain. Happy birthday! Claire grinned, her eyes sparkling with an unspoken understanding. They hugged tightly, and for a brief moment, the world outside disappeared. Emily pitched into her past, feeling the warmth of deep friendship wrap around her like a comforting blanket. Look at you. You haven't changed at all, Claire teased, stepping back to gaze at Emily with a scrutinizing yet affectionate eye. Emily chuckled softly, a hint of unease hiding beneath the surface. I'm not sure that's true, she replied, letting out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. This year has been different. At that moment, a pang of vulnerability struck. Would Claire even understand how deeply her life had shifted? How she had fought against the tides of grief? Their laughter was short-lived as the weight of Jack's unexpected appearance loomed large in the air. Claire's gaze darted past Emily, landing directly on James, who stood at the edge of the party, his expression a mixture of nostalgia and uncertainty. Wow, is that James? Claire whispered, barely able to contain her shock. I thought he moved away for good. Yeah, Emily replied, her voice barely reaching a whisper. It's complicated. She hesitated, debating whether to share her conflict with Claire. The past hung between them like a fragile thread, ready to snap at a moment's notice. But Claire, always the perceptive one, caught her internal battle. You know, Claire said gently, you can always talk to me. No matter what you're feeling right now, I'm here. There was a sincerity in Claire's eyes, and for a fleeting heartbeat, Emily felt seen in a way she hadn't allowed herself in years. But then, as the laughter of other partygoers echoed around her, she felt the shadows creep back in. Would any conversation actually change things? Or would it just highlight the fractures she desperately tried to keep hidden? What if this is another moment where Emily started, but Claire gently placed a hand on her arm, grounding her. You won't know unless you let it. Claire's words nudged Emily, urging her to confront her fear. Emily glanced back at James, who caught her eye again, an unspoken question resting between them. Memories filtered in, their laughter, their dreams. What did it mean that he was here? What would come of it? But then the party shifted, and the energy within the room changed as familiar music filled the air, pulling people toward the dance floor. Laughter bubbled up, drawing Emily momentarily out of her tangled thoughts. Dance with me? Claire's invitation was warm, filled with the desire to share joy. If only for a moment, could Emily push her doubts aside? As she felt the pull of the music, she hesitated, her gaze flicking back to James. Would she take this risk? With a deep breath, Emily finally nodded. Okay. Let us dance. Just as she stepped towards the rhythm and Claire, her heart sluggish with conflicting emotions, she heard a voice rising above the music, the words smooth yet urgent. Emily. Now what? She thought, glancing back again, the flickering lights reflecting her mounting uncertainty. Could this night really change everything? Emily's heart dropped at the familiar tone, one that had sent shivers down her spine for years. She turned, her eyes narrowing at the sight of Jack standing at the threshold of the dance floor. The tension that had momentarily begun to dissipate tightened around her once more. Emily. He called again, his voice cutting through the music like a knife. In an instant, the vibrant energy of the party faded into the background, replaced by an almost palpable awkwardness. Claire's hand slipped off Emily's arm, her expression shifted from joy to concern as she tried to gauge the scene unfolding. Emily fought against the instinct to flee but felt trapped in the spotlight of old memories and new questions. Why now? She murmured, more to herself than anyone else. Jack's face betrayed uncertainty, yet his eyes were locked on hers with an intensity that made Emily's breath hitch. Did he really think he could just call her name like that after everything? After the silence, the distance? Can we talk? Jack asked, stepping closer, the crowd parting around him as if sensing the gravity of the moment. Emily's mind raced. The urge to retreat was powerful. All those years of heartache flashed before her, their laughter, yes, but also the goodbyes that had come too soon, the lingering ache that never quite faded. Could she really face this right now, amid the celebration of her birthday? Claire shifted beside her, sensing the brewing storm. It's up to you, she whispered, giving her friend a gentle nudge forward. Emily bit her lip, torn between her instinct to protect herself and the desire to seek closure. Perhaps talking could be the key to unraveling the tightly woven fabric of pain she'd held for so long. Okay, let us talk, Emily said finally, her voice steady despite how her heart raced. She took a breath and stepped across the dance floor, the vibe shifting from celebratory to somber with each step. Jack's relief was palpable, yet it was mingled with an apprehension that made Emily's stomach twist. They found a quieter corner, dimly lit yet far from the noise of laughter and music. What do you want? She asked, her arms crossing defensively. Clarity was needed, and she had to maintain her ground. Her heart had already been bruised too many times for her to become effortless to him. Emily, I've been thinking about you, about us. I know things ended badly, but being here tonight it made me realize how much I miss you. His sincerity was earnest, each word laced with an urgency that made her pulse race. But what did that mean now? What was she supposed to do with this admission? She thought about how she'd rebuilt her life, how she'd learned to carry her sorrows. I don't know if that helps, Emily replied, her voice faltering slightly. Life isn't as simple as it used to be. Jack glanced down, guilt flickering in his eyes. I don't expect you to just forgive me or forget. But you disappeared, she interrupted, emotions welling in her chest. I was left wondering what went wrong. I thought I meant something to you. Silence filled the space between them, heavy and suffocating. Jack's gaze dropped, and for a moment, Emily saw a glimmer of the boy she once knew, the one who promised the moon but vanished when storms rolled in. I'm here now. Give me a chance to explain. But her heart pounded with doubt, memories swirling like leaves in the wind. What if this was just another moment where she went back into the fire? As she stood there, wrestling with her choices, she felt Claire peek around the corner, her eyes wide as if sensing the brewing storm. The party continued behind her, vibrant and joyous. Just beyond the laughter, the music, and the lights, the ghosts of the past danced uninvited. Emily tried to breathe, to make sense of everything. Was this night truly about celebration, or was it an invitation for reckoning? Just then, she could see Claire signaling her, concern etched in her features. Could this conversation lead to a new beginning, or would it simply open old wounds? In that moment, with Jack standing before her yet years of struggles weighing her down, the choice felt impossibly daunting. Emily, Jack spoke softly, echoing her name like a plea. Could she find the strength to confront her pain, or would she choose to close the door once and for all? Emily's chest felt tight as silence enveloped them. She could hear the distant thump of music overlapping with a steady pulse in her ears. The world around her spun slowly, like a carousel with painted horses frozen in time, each one representing a memory, some soft and sweet, others sharp and jagged. Emily, Jack said again, his voice trembling slightly. Just hear me out. I didn't realize what I was losing until it was gone. His words hung in the air, clinging to the dim light that cast shadows around them. She wanted to scream at him for the years stolen, for the unasked questions that had lingered like ghosts in her mind. You had your chance. The words clawed at her throat, desperate to be released. Instead, she forced herself to take a breath, grounding herself in the moment. You said you miss me, but Jack, what does that mean? I've rebuilt my life. I've learned to be okay without you. The anger in her voice faltered, replaced by vulnerability. I can't just go back to what was. Jack reached out as if to bridge the gap between them, then hesitated, his hand falling back to his side. You were my first love. I was scared. I didn't know how to navigate those feelings. I ran away. The pile of emotions in Emily's chest shredded at his admission. The years of wondering why he'd left rushed back, but mixed with it was the flicker of understanding. And now? She asked, her voice trembling. What do you want from me now? I want to explain. To show you that I've changed. That I'm not the same scared boy who left, Jack said earnestly. I've spent years thinking about how I hurt you. I'm sorry. She closed her eyes for a moment, remembering the weight of that hurt, the nights spent crying, the days filled with emptiness. I don't know if an apology is enough, she murmured, feeling the gravity of the moment. You were the one who chose to leave, not me. I know. And I've carried that guilt. I thought a new start in a different city would help, but nothing has, Jack urged, desperation creeping into his voice. I've regretted it every single day. I've missed you, Em. Her heart raced, torn between the desire to bury the past and the flicker of hope that maybe he had changed. But change wasn't enough. She needed more than words, she needed reassurance that he could be the person she once believed he was. Do you truly think you can just stroll back into my life because you feel bad? She asked, her voice steadier now, but still filled with doubt. How do I know this isn't just a fleeting moment for you? That when things get tough again, you won't shut me out? Jack's eyes were filled with sincerity, and for a moment, she believed him. If you give me a chance, I'll show you. I want to be there for you this time fully, completely. No more running away. Emily felt her heart battle between longing and fear. There was an undeniable spark between them, a familiarity that was both comforting and confusing. Could she entrust him with her heart again? Just then, Claire drifted closer, a shadow of concern clouding her face. Emily, are you okay? She whispered, her eyes darting between the two of them. Emily's pulse quickened as she glanced back at Jack. The trust she once had was buried under layers of hurt and self-protection. But deep down, a part of her wanted to believe this moment could lead somewhere new, something different. Emily, please, Jack said softly, the vulnerability in his tone breaking through her defenses. I'm asking for a chance, not a guarantee. The weight of his plea settled in her stomach. Could she risk everything she'd built just to give this a try? As she stood at this crossroads, the music dulled, and the laughter faded. All she could hear was the thudding of her heart and the uncertainty hanging in the air. Maybe I can take that step forward, she thought, feeling the familiar stirring of hope within her. But would stepping forward mean stepping into the fire again? Okay, she finally whispered, her decision hanging in the air as fragile as glass. Let us see where this goes. Just then, a loud cheer erupted from the nearby partygoers, but Emily felt the world shrink again, focusing entirely on the two of them. Could she really navigate this new journey with him, or would it only lead her down an even darker path? With her heart laid bare, she realized she was ready to confront the truth once and for all, but would she have the strength to face whatever came next? The music surged again, pulling Emily back into the world where the laughs and shouts of friends spilled into the cool night air. Jack's features softened as he studied her, the intensity of their moments still radiating between them. She could feel it, that electric charge, yet anxiety coiled tighter in her stomach. Do you want to get some air? He asked, his voice low enough that only she could hear. Taking a deep breath, Emily nodded. They stepped away from the clamor, walking in the direction of the villa's sprawling garden, illuminated by strings of lights that glimmered like stars. The air was thicker out here, heady with the mingling scents of blooming flowers and fresh earth. Look at this place, Jack said, breaking the silence as they strolled through the garden. It's beautiful. It is, she replied, though her mind was far from the aesthetics. She traced the petals of a nearby flower, the soft texture grounding her restless thoughts. Just like you said, I've rebuilt my life. This beauty, it's from a new beginning. Jack turned, acknowledging her words with a solemn nod. I get that. I'm happy for you, truly. But this isn't just about beauty, is it? It's about healing. His gaze bore into hers, and Emily felt exposed. Healing takes time, she said quietly. I don't know how to let go of everything just yet. I'm scared, Jack. I understand, he replied, his sincerity spilling over. But I can promise you, this time around, I won't run. I'll fight for us. I'm not the boy who left. The ache of her past played like an old song inside her head, its familiar tune tempting in its melancholy. Promises can be empty, Emily whispered, more to herself than him. You can't erase those years, I know. But maybe, just maybe, we can create new memories together. And the truth in his eyes held her captive. She wanted to believe him, to dive into this middle ground they were building together. As they moved deeper into the garden, the soft glow of lanterns surrounded them, and the sound of their footsteps harmonized with the distant music, reminding her of the times they danced barefoot on lawn grass under twinkling skies. Remember that summer party? She asked, a smile creeping onto her lips despite the uncertainty in her heart. You stepped on someone's foot while trying to do the cha-cha. Jack laughed, a rich sound that reverberated in the night. Yeah, and then we ended up in the pool fully clothed. We were a disaster. A perfect moment wrapped around them, a fragile veil of joy. But reality loomed like a shadow, ever present. I can't go back to just being that girl who waits for you like I did before, she said, her laughter lingering. If this is a journey, it has to be an equal one. Agreed, Jack replied, his voice firm. I want to be your partner, not like the boy who ran away. I want to help you heal. She looked at him, searching his eyes for any hint of the boy she once loved and the man he claimed to be now. Her heart raced, pounding with possibility yet still battered from the past. Can we really do this? She asked, hesitantly. Can we really move forward without the pain weighing us down? Jack stepped closer, that familiar spark igniting between them once again. Only if we both try. It'll be hard, but we owe it to ourselves to find out. As they stood there, uncertainty mingling with hope, she felt her heart flutter. Jack's presence was like a lighthouse in the fog, beckoning her to navigate these uncharted waters. A sudden noise startled them, laughter bubbling from a group nearby. Claire's bright hair caught Emily's eye as her friend waved, pulling her back into the reality of the moment. "Just remember," Jack whispered, leaning closer, his breath warm against her cheek. "I'm all in if you are." With a newfound determination weaving through her, she stared at the crowd ahead, a mix of excitement and anxiety pooling in her gut. Maybe this is okay, she thought. Maybe it doesn't have to hurt. Yet as she turned to face the party, a chill of fear washed over her. What if their fragile spark extinguished as quickly as it flared? What if she couldn't bridge the space that had twisted them apart for so long? Emily realized she was standing on the threshold of a new kind of love. But would it be strong enough to withstand the weight of their past? And as the music pulsed in the background, she felt the gravity of that question cling to her, desperate to be answered. Emily's breaths came in quick bursts as she stood at the edge of their past, peering into the chaos of laughter and dancing. The pulsating rhythm of a familiar song echoed in her mind, urging her forward, but fear anchored her to the spot. Jack stood beside her, a steady presence, but she could sense the doubt creeping in. "Let us go," he coaxed gently, taking a step closer, the warmth of his shoulder brushing against hers. "It's just a party." She turned her gaze back toward the crowd, where Claire waved enthusiastically, beckoning. Friends were gathered, their faces filled with joy and familiarity. Yet to Emily, it felt different this time. Each smile was a reminder of who she used to be, and each laugh a potential reminder of her pain. "Okay," she finally replied, determination settling over her like a soft quilt. She took a step forward, almost hesitant, and then another. Jack matched her pace, his presence reassuring. "Do you want to grab some drinks first?" he asked, guiding her toward the outdoor bar set up beneath twinkling lights. "Sure, yeah," she said, trying to inject enthusiasm into her words. "Let us do that." As they approached the bar, the bartender welcomed them with a bright smile. Emily watched as Jack ordered them each a drink, his animated banter lightening the air between them. The clinking of glasses, the faint cheers of celebration, it filled her with flickers of nostalgia. "Here you go," Jack handed her a sparkling drink, and as their fingers brushed, a spark ignited. She felt her heart flutter unexpectedly, memories of carefree summers and laughter washing over her like a wave. "Thanks," she said, taking a sip, and the refreshing taste surprised her. It was sweet but not cloying, much like this moment. They found a quiet corner of the garden, a space framed by lush blooms and twinkling lanterns. Emily closed her eyes for a brief moment, inhaling the warm, floral air. For the first time in a long while, she felt almost free. "Do you ever think about how different our lives could have been?" Jack asked, his gaze fixed on the stars peeking through the night sky. "What do you mean?" She tilted her head and met his eyes, searching for the connection he'd promised. "Like if we hadn't lost those years when he hesitated," but she gently squeezed his wrist with her free hand, urging him to continue. "When you left?" She finished for him, her heart racing at the openness of that dialogue. "Yeah, if we had fought harder, together," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I can't help but wonder sometimes." Her heart twisted at his words, prickling with sadness and an uninvited anger. "That's all we can do now," Jack wondered about what could have been. "But we're standing here, right now." "I know," he replied, eyes sincere. "And I want to make the most of it." The moment hung between them, a fragile tightrope of hope and doubt. Emily took another sip from her drink, her mind racing with uncertainties. Maybe they couldn't erase the past, but every word they exchanged felt like a step towards something new and unexplored. As they spoke, laughter and music flowed through the night, coaxing friends to dance, to reunite, to celebrate. Yet she remained rooted to the spot, Jack's eyes locked onto hers, silently urging her to journey with him. Suddenly, Claire appeared, a whirlwind of energy as she pulled Emily back toward the crowd. "Come on, we're dancing. Everyone's waiting for you." "Okay, okay." Emily laughed, but the sound came out shaky, as if it could easily dissolve into tears. Jack fell in step beside her, but the moment felt electric, like a bridge formed in the last seconds before a thunderstorm. Once in the midst of the lively crowd, Emily felt the familiar rhythm flow through her. She swayed to the music, letting its energy lift her spirit, but Jack remained close, his presence anchoring her in a sea of noise and movement. The beat pulsed in time with her heartbeat, yet something deeper simmered beneath the surface. As the chorus swelled, her smile felt unsure, and for a moment, the laughter around her blurred into a distant hum. Is this what healing looks like, she thought. This beautiful chaos? And just as she began to embrace that thought, a voice rang out above the music. "Hey, Emily." It was Claire again, her eyes beaming with anticipation. "Are you ready for your birthday surprise?" Emily's breath caught in her throat. The weight of everything hung in the air, each word dangling with expectation. Would she be ready for whatever was coming next? "Yes. I'm ready," she whispered to herself, though uncertainty gnawed at her. But as Claire led her further into the crowd, a sense of dread clawed at her, the unknown pressing down like a heavy fog. What did this surprise mean for the foundations she was trying to rebuild? With each step deeper into the celebration, Emily felt the stakes rise. Would she truly be able to face what lay ahead, both the joy of now and the shadows of her past? And there, in the pulse of the music, the laughter, and the flickering lights, she wondered if she had the strength to uncover the next chapter of her story. But what if this surprise was more than she bargained for? The crowd swirled around Emily, laughter and chatter rising to meet her. Every step Claire took felt like a drumbeat echoing in her chest, increasing her anxiety. What was this birthday surprise? Was she ready to unveil another layer of herself, one that felt fragile yet longing for acceptance? Jack stayed near, his presence a silent assurance against the tide of uncertainty. As they reached the center of the gathering, Claire turned dramatically, arms spread wide. "Surprise!" she exclaimed, her voice cutting through the noise. Emily's heart raced. A circle of friends stood before her, each holding brightly colored balloons and small, wrapped gifts. It felt like a scene pulled straight from a picture book, joyful yet surreal. "Happy birthday, Emily!" They cheered, voices melting together in a harmony of warmth. She should be felt elated, a smile should be swept across her face. Instead, a deep-seated anxiety bubbled within her. Balloons floated like expectations, gifts like reminders of all the happiness she struggled to find. Thanks, everyone," Emily managed to say, her voice strained as she forced a smile. Jack's gaze was steady as he caught her eye, but the weight she carried felt heavier under the spotlight of their attention. Claire rushed to her side, bubbling with excitement. "We planned a little surprise party. Just us. It's going to be amazing. We have a beautiful villa rented for the whole weekend." The mention of the villa flickered a mixture of panic and incredulity within Emily. Her mind drifted back to earlier birthdays when she had masked her pain behind artificial smiles. She had built walls to shield her heart from disappointment, and now they felt ready to crumble. "A villa?" she stammered, trying to process it. "All weekend?" "Yes. I thought you could use a little getaway." Claire's eyes sparkled with delight, as if she couldn't grasp the turmoil her friend felt beneath the surface. "And just imagine it. Stars, open air, and just us." But what did just them mean? Freedom? Or more momentous expectations? The weight of her emotions flashed through her mind, contrasting sharply with how everyone else seemed blissfully unaware. Jack leaned closer. "You don't have to do anything you're not ready for, Em. We can take it slow," he said softly, grounding her. "Yeah," Emily breathed, relief washing over her like the gentle waves of a rising tide. She needed to hear that, needed to know she could still reclaim pieces of herself without judgment. The group began to cheer, each person holding up a balloon, creating a riot of color around her. 1, 2, 3 Happy birthday! They sang, voices rising in playful chaos. Emily's heart squeaked, almost breaking under the weight of expectations and nostalgia. Don't cry. Don't cry. But the tears prickled, painfully close to the surface. Hadn't she buried these emotions long enough? Shouldn't she be celebrating the present? Yet the idea of a course change scared her. What would it take for her to reveal all the parts of herself she had hidden away? Come on. Let us get to the villa. Claire pulled her into the swarming mass, laughter swirling as friends jostled for position, each wanting to be the first to rush into the adventure ahead. Emily didn't move, caught in a moment that felt suspended in time. With Jack's steady gaze on her, she hesitated. This was her chance to embrace the spirit of the celebration, to stand in the light of her friends or retreat to her shadows. But how could she strip away layers of resentment and disbelief? Before she could answer, Claire stopped, turning back. Hey! We'll have so much fun. Remember, it's about letting go. Just be yourself. The words pulsed through Emily, wrapping around her like a whisper. But could being herself include all the fragments of her past, the pain, the joy, the journey she had yet to accept? As she stepped toward the group, guided by Claire's unwavering enthusiasm, a haunting question lingered. What part of herself would she finally allow to shine in the light of acceptance? With every step toward the villa, each choice became a reflection of her heart, layered, tender, and waiting to be healed. Would this getaway be a place for her transformation, or would it simply uncover fears she had long concealed? And as they made their way through the garden bursting with laughter, Emily realized the greatest surprise of all might just be standing at the edge of discovery. Could she embrace her past as part of who she was meant to be? The van doors swung open, and Emily hesitated at the threshold, heart pounding like the music that lingered in the air. What awaited her inside? As they spilled into the van, the air around Emily buzzed with excitement, yet fear clung to her like a second skin. Her friends cheered and chatted eagerly, their laughter bubbling over like fresh champagne. But beneath the bright surface, she felt the heaviness of her heart, a reminder of the layers she had yet to peel away. Seated next to Jack, she stole glances at him, feeling the warmth radiate from just being so close. The familiar spark ignited her hopes, but doubts taunted her. Could the weekend truly be about healing? About letting go? As the van rolled away from the familiar streets of Maplewood, the landscape began to shift, morphing into the kind of scenery seen in fantasy's rolling hills, wildflowers dancing in the breeze, and a sky painted with hues of orange and lavender. Still, Emily felt a twinge of anxiety nestled tightly in her chest. Don't think about the past, she reminded herself, breathing deeply as they approached Villa Rosewood. Pulling to a stop, the opulence before them took her breath away. The grand facade stood tall, the sprawling gardens inviting, exuding an air of promise that clung to the golden hour. We're here. Claire squealed. The group rushed out, laughter spilling over, but Emily lingered, heart fluttering with a mix of anticipation and trepidation. Jack remained by her side, sensing the turmoil within. You ready? He asked, genuinely concerned. I think so, she whispered, barely able to meet his gaze. Taking a deep breath, she stepped out of the van. Judging by their friends' joyful exclamations, the villa radiated joy. Friends dashed inside, their shouts echoing, but Emily paused, tilting her head back to admire the twinkling lights that adorned the gazebo nearby. Just remember, it's about letting go. Claire's voice echoed in her mind, reigniting a small flicker of courage. What if she embraced this moment? What if it became the start of something brighter? With a renewed sense of purpose illuminating her heart, she entered the villa. Inside, the atmosphere was nothing short of magical. Strings of fairy lights crisscrossed above, casting a warm glow over the space. Tables were decorated with vibrant flowers and small candles, beautifully set up for the feast that awaited. Let us eat. Claire nearly shouted, and Emily found her heart lifting as everyone gathered, laughter swirling in the air like confetti. As they settled around the long table, Emily tried to absorb the joy surrounding her. Perhaps today was a day for celebration, not just because of her birthday, but for all the pieces of herself yet to be discovered. She couldn't change the past, but this was her chance to reclaim her narrative. After the hearty dinner, Claire stood to give a toast. To Emily. She cheered, and the room erupted with warm enthusiasm, each cheer wrapping Emily in love. Feeling buoyed by their kindness, she stood too, holding her glass. Thank you, everyone. I truly appreciate this. Her heart raced as uncertainty danced behind her thoughts. But Claire winked at her, urging her to continue. And don't forget, you can be your true self here. Taking a breath, vulnerability spilled over her. I've spent so many years hiding wearing a mask, pretending everything was okay, especially on my birthdays. But tonight, I want to embrace who I am, every piece, the good and the bad. I want to let go of the past. Tears brimmed her eyes, not of sorrow, but of realization. The crowd listened, some nodding, others wiping away their own tears. And I want to keep showing my daughter that it's okay to embrace yourself. She glanced at Lily, who had gravitated toward Jack and Claire, oblivious to the weight of her words yet anchoring Emily's resolve. To live boldly and authentically. Jack stepped closer, his gaze gentle. And I'll be right here with you, every step of the way, he urged softly. Glancing around, she felt the warmth from her friends, the love permeating the air wrapping around her like an embrace. That's when Claire piped up again, now, let us dance. Her joyful voice lifted the mood, and the crowd erupted into laughter. And cheers, inviting Emily to step forward into a whirlwind of music. As the rhythmic beats swelled, Emily felt lighter, the chains of the past loosening their grip. She let the music guide her, moving freely with her friends under the enchanting glow. Joy bubbled over her heart like the champagne they toasted with. She let herself dance, surrounded by laughter, by warmth, by acceptance, not as the waitress they once saw, but as Emily, a woman in transformation, embracing every shadow that contributed to the light. And right there, enveloped in the spirit of connection, she knew her journey was only beginning. The road ahead would have hurdles, but she had the support of her daughter and friends to navigate through. And within her, the fire of hope burned brighter than ever. Moments melded together as the music surged, weaving memories of laughter and joy in a tapestry she had longed to create. This was her chance to rise, to embrace every fragment of herself, and to learn to love openly, to finally stand in her truth. The night danced on, brimming with possibilities. No longer just staring at the sidelines but stepping into the spotlight of her life, singing her own song. And it was beautiful. As the music played on, Emily glanced toward Jack, the spark in his eyes echoing the warmth blooming in her heart. Would they find their rhythm together? Only time would tell. But tonight, she was not afraid. Tonight, she was free, unmarred and unbroken, a new chapter unwritten, waiting to unfold. These friends, this moment, and the love wrapping around them, it was a gift she would cherish forever. And just like that, she understood, the real surprises lay ahead. Now, let us keep this journey going together. You need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive stories, where transformation and hope await. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support our community. Comment your reactions and feelings about this ending. Your voice matters. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us spread the love. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support and be a part of this journey.